Don't let static discharge ruin your next build. I was watching a YouTuber who provides tutorials on how to build gaming PCs, and he made a special video to respond to common commentary from his viewers. In the commentary, there was a question: why do we never see you take measures to prevent damage to the computers you work on from static electricity? To my surprise, this YouTuber said, "I've built hundreds of computers, and I've never had a problem. Static protection is a waste of time and money." Based on that statement, I doubt this YouTuber's mom ever taught him the point of using protection. Now, let me cover this gap now for anyone who also missed this education, or anyone who perhaps suppressed that memory. Yes, skipping protective measures may not have immediate consequences. However, you may completely regret that choice later on down the road. My argument for using protection extends beyond the reach of a well-intentioned lecture from Mom. Allow me to share my own professional anecdote. Years ago, I worked for a company that makes IT equipment, and that company was acquired by a giant in the computer manufacturing business. Let's call this giant Acme Computers. Like all large corporations, Acme Computers sent mandatory training to employees. Aside from the usual "don't touch me there" and "it's not a bribe, it's a customary fee" training modules, I was surprised to see a unique module for Electrostatic Discharge, or ESD, procedures. For Acme, following ESD policy is following the most important fundamental of operating a business: making more money. I worked in engineering for an Acme subsidiary, so I don't have exact sales figures. I have pieced together some estimates, however, using revenue reports from public earnings. And at the time, Acme had $60 billion in sales and had produced more than 40 million desktops, laptops, servers, and workstations in the calendar year. And you may be wondering, how does leadership guide a business with economics at that scale? And the answer is, they do so by asking the right questions. And when things are going well, there's really only one question that leadership will ask: how can we increase the share price so I can make my bonus this year? That message is passed down through the chain of command. Make the line go up. So the corporate warriors took out their spreadsheets and they studied both the opportunities and the costs for the business. And what they found was an opportunity to reduce cost. Some products were failing. The executives of Acme Computers used their immense brain power to find a way to target the sunk cost of supporting customers with broken computers. And they eliminated expensive American customer support staff and sent those jobs overseas. Surprisingly, though, things got worse. Our customer at Acme still received a defective product, but she got better support from her 12-year-old grandson than she did from the employee, obviously not really named Bob. So she demanded a refund, not a replacement, and she didn't bring her business back later. The line went down until a hand was finally raised sheepishly in the back of the room. What if we asked the smart people? Brilliant. The dumpster fire changed hands to the engineers that made the products in the first place. And the challenge was put to the team. Is there a better way to reduce our costs from delivering defective computers to customers? And the smart people took a step back and asked a different question. How can we reduce our failure rate? And in a corporate miracle, the computer nerds were then allowed to use actual science to evaluate thousands of failed components. And eventually, they found a common cause. The employees of Acme Computers that were responsible for putting together the computers as they moved down the assembly line had tiny amounts of static electricity build up on their bodies during the course of the day. And over again, that electricity would discharge onto sensitive computer parts that were assembled and put into market. And what's even more interesting is that some of those parts were not dead on arrival. Some of them had failed after weeks or even months in service. So the scientists at Acme Computers had identified that ESD was a substantial cause for both immediate and delayed failures observed by customers. So Acme Computers eventually invested their time and money to invent clean rooms for their manufacturing. And the management doubled down with mandatory training and new policy. Expectations were set. All employees would use static, safe procedures to work on sensitive devices, with no exceptions. And the story ended with those executives making their bonuses. The line went back up and then some, despite what they did to customer service. And it did so because ESD procedures work. When you look at it with the scale of Acme Computers, the evidence is obvious and irrefutable. Computer parts are sensitive to static damage, and it makes financial sense to protect them when you work with them. So what exactly do you need to do that when you build your next gaming rig? A $30 item called a field service kit will get the job done just fine. And let me show you how it works. The main piece of kit is the anti-static mat. This needs to be grounded by means of the grounding cable. And then you ground yourself to everything using a wrist strap. The kit will include at least one, possibly two, alligator clips. I'll show you how to use these in a minute. And then an optional component is a convenience item called a grounding plug. I'll put a link to these items in the description below. The ESD anti-static mat only functions if it is connected directly to ground. Otherwise, it's just a mat on a table. So you simply just snap it on. And then it's up to you to connect the other side to ground. The most reliable way you can do this is using an electrical socket in your house. If you try to insert the banana jack directly to the ground of a receptacle, you'll find that it's too loose. In a pinch, pun intended, you can reverse an alligator clip for a snug fit. I wouldn't do this long term, though. The best and safest way to make the ground connection is to use a banana jack outlet adapter. This equipment is designed specifically for this purpose. Okay, so we've got our mat connected to ground. And the next step is to ground yourself. Now, you want to use the wrist strap for this. There's going to be a portion of it that's metal, and that part needs to be against your skin. And the other end of the wrist strap also needs a path to ground. There are two different ways you can achieve this. One is by using the banana jack in the ground cable that you snap to your ESD kit. The second way that you can ground yourself to an ESD mat, a field service kit, is by putting the banana jack of your wrist strap onto the alligator clip. Now you can clip onto any part of the Electrostatic Discharge anti-static mat, and you've ground your body. That's all you need.